Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry this week I've been a little bit busy. I'm handling my whiskey business and other stuff, so I did not have time to think of content. So as you guys know, I'm a dropout and I did not finish my studies. I thought it would be funny content if I share my understanding of the universe or physics in this video. Since I do not have any content planned for this week, I thought I would share an interview that Boon Tee interviewed me about my understanding of the world. For me, when I was younger, I actually did okay in school. It's just that I cannot comply with the school system, I cannot comply with systems and regulations and rules. I think if you were to measure my agreeableness on a scale, I think I'm on the extreme spectrum of being disagreeable. And this trait of mine let me question about what is school for, what's the meaning of all this, what is consciousness, what is time, why are systems built and designed in this way. And from a very young age, I was using first principles thinking. It's about questioning the assumptions to fundamental basic truth and reason backwards and work your way back up to the problem. And this was the thinking approach that I've been using since I was young without realizing that it is a very popular thinking approach in physics. And oftentimes I think this is a very good approach of thinking framework to have because all the answers we seek lies in the universe. It is about finding the right questions to ask that is the universe. So it is about expanding the scope and scale of human consciousness. So I thought this video would be funny to make, that a dropout is explaining to you guys about the nature of the universe and maybe to change the perception of relating a degree to a person's IQ. I personally think that having a master's or PhD is independent of IQ. It's about how agreeable you are. It is about how obliging you are studying the answers within the system, within the box. There are a lot of answers outside the box. So today I will show you the answers outside the box. And also, if you guys are interested in alternative investment other than stocks, such as whiskey, watches, all that, and you want to know more about these asset classes and how some of them do outperform stocks, just leave your comments down below. I will answer and make another video on this. So I'm really not joking. I really dropped out and I started working very young. And one of the jobs I had was a bartender. And I identified that whiskey was a very popular drink that holds its value well. And I did a quick Google search and I realized that whiskey outperformed all asset classes, including wine, gold, jewelry, stocks, equities, so on and so forth. And that's why I dabbled into whiskeys. So this is a video of me last Thursday night crashing onto other people's bar, just bartending for fun. And after that, I'll explain to you the nature of this universe and time and consciousness, AI, all this kind of thing. Okay, without...
哇！我这边看到还有个 one hand check， 这边来你去测试。
20啊。
冰。Oh my god！
Still got it, Still got it.
One hand check.
So just like you mentioned that time is not absolute unit of measurement, right? I think all this topic is related to special theory of relativity and Einstein's theory, right? So can you like explain what was your understanding on what is special theory of relativity and what is space-time?
If you study the theory of relativity, you can understand that time can be distorted by motion and gravity. If an object is going faster than the speed of light, time can be distorted. Yeah. Or if an object is very heavy and space-time will be warped, and light can actually be bent and take the shortest distance, and hence distance is affected. And since speed of light is 29979924588, time is affected because of the distance it takes to travel. Yeah. So time is relative, or time is not a finite absolute unit of measurement. Yeah. So I find it interesting, and because of my obsession with time, and options is a contract dealing with the passage of time. So it gets me fascinated to study about both time and options. It helps me to deep dive a little more.
Yeah. So you're saying that time dilations, right, means that like time is slowing down. So for example, like there are two peoples relative to each other, they experience it time differently because of their speed and so on, right? Is this really, do you think this is true, or is this just like people's imagination?
On Earth itself, we are experiencing time almost equally. Maybe your head age faster than your legs, but that's about it. But I'm talking about like outside Earth, when you are dealing with different velocity, different weight. Yeah, let's say black hole. Black hole. Time slows in black hole. The Earth's mass is different from Mars' mass or something like that, like this kind of thing. Then time will move slightly differently depending on the actual difference between the motion and the weight. Yeah.
How did you stumble upon, all these concepts?
Actually, it starts with like, because I am more of a big picture person, so I think about like, there's one paradox called the Fermi paradox. Fermi paradox is basically asking where are the aliens, So if we know that the universe existed for about 13 billion years, 13.8 billion if I'm not wrong, and Earth is about 4.5 billion, then shouldn't there be aliens everywhere out there? But there are no aliens out there. So both scenario is equally terrifying. If let's say there are far more advanced civilization out there that's able to harness energy massively, and so they can just destroy us should they want to, you know.
Yeah.
So, and that is terrifying. But if there is no other alien forms out there outside of Earth or outside of this solar system, then it's actually more terrifying. Means that life itself is very precious and conscientious and consciousness is very hard to be formed. And it means that there are a lot of great filters around to prevent life from happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and for Fermi paradox, you can ask a lot of other things. Do we feel time differently than outside space-time? You know, outside space-time. So it means that our 4.5 billion years, does it mean we experience it time differently than the outside the 13.8 billion years? Or so these are the questions I ask myself for. And that's why I stumble onto like, time can be relative and there's time dilation, this kind of thing. You also, for Fermi paradox, I also can ask like, what is consciousness, what is time? How this universe come about, whether or not is it a creator universe or things evolve from simplicity to complexity, which we talk about like entropy, all this kind of thing.
But before that, I just want to ask, do you think alien exists?
I mean, the logical answer should be yes. Okay, let's say the universe has the amount of sands Earth has. Sand is just like one Earth. Yeah. So, and if the universe is so big and there are multiple suns and all that, for life to exist, probably need like the right distance from the sun, right gravitational field, and right atmosphere. So, if the universe is so big that we cannot imagine, I think there are odds that alien life will exist. But alien life exists doesn't mean that consciousness and conscientiousness will be there. Because for 65 million years, the dinosaur era or something like that, like there is no consciousness.
Just now you mentioned about this word entropy, right? Yes. So I also, when I read some text, I also read about this word, but then I don't know exactly what's the meaning. I have to look up in the dictionary. But in your understandings, right, what is this entropy all about, and how does it help us to understand the universe?
Okay, I'm not a physics student, but just curious, just like Boon Tee, curious. So I use some sort of analogy, reasoning from analogy. I just like picture, I feel like this is a high probable explanation of how things evolve. So entropy is taken from law of thermodynamics. Let's say a hot cup of tea introduced to a cold environment, then the particles will cool down, all this kind of thing, they'll interact with one another. Particles in hot state and particles in cold state is different, how they interact with each other. So you can think of it as like, let's say if universe starts from Big Bang, so from a smaller point of like this amount of space, all the energy is inside, and there is a, is it a heat wave or outburst, then things burst into Big Bang, right? For the particles to stay in the same state without moving around is lower probability than moving out, you know. So it's higher probability that things will move out. You weigh things in terms of probability, let's say in this time, in this segment of time, 80% or 90% things will move out this way. And then through the passage of time, then this probability, 90% probability will happen, and particles will go around, and all these particles will interact with one another and they will form more complex things. Atoms will combine and they will form more complex things. So I think this theory makes more sense than a creator universe, because if there's a creator universe, I mean there's a start of one thing, right? Then where does the creator come from? Then you have this like multiple loop that you cannot.
Yes, you always
So entropy is also like a bit of like understanding things are chaotic. The flow of time is from order to disorder. I feel this is our natural universe. It's like chaos, and things will become more and more complicated. And just now we talk about this analogy. How about like humans in the 1900s? They will view us as gods because we have access to information, because like we have satellites that launch internet connection to everywhere. We have rockets. We have so many advanced technology. Like people in the 19th century will view people in the 21st century as gods. We discover new things, and these new things can stack on top of each other, and they will form new things. Like understand physics, and understand this engineering, understand how to harness this energy, and all this combined will sprout to new things. And you can think of how particles, all this will interact with one another, and just my thinking.
So, okay, just to build on that, right, you are saying that all these new inventions help us do more new things, right? Actually, can we describe this as the world become more chaotic or
yes. No? So I feel that this is a natural flow of time, which is things become more and more chaotic and become more and more complex. And this is just, I don't know why time flows this way and not to the order. But this is, you can connect everything in terms of like entropy, how time flows, time dilation, what we talk about, aliens, Fermi paradox, or maybe not Fermi paradox, but some other stuff consciousness, how consciousness develops and slowly become more and more sophisticated. Something like that.
So all this really sounds fascinating. So I know that, for example, like Einstein's theory of relativity was invented in 1905, right? And then I think in the beginning it's just theory, and then now I think they already put into some applications. So just want to ask you, right? Whoever interested with these kind of topics, right? Do you think this is just like just for fun, just for the understanding, or do you think that that's real impact to the real life, or implications to the real life? What's your take on that?
My take on that is that physics is like the study of truth.
Yeah.
So nothing can be built without physics, the understanding of physics. So your skyscraper, your pipelines, your whatever lah, you want to launch satellites, you need rocket, you need to understand a lot of things about physics. And what we are talking about is big picture physics. So it's understanding of the world. So a lot of things is based on logic. I mean, I reason a lot of things based on logic, but I may not fully studied physics, but it's still a lot of reasoning from logic. And I think in physics there's this thing called first principles approach, and we talk about this a lot. It's about reasoning the assumptions to their fundamental basic truth, and then you work backwards. So it's a good way to understand things if you do not have a mentor figure. Yeah. And because you use a lot of logic in physics, right, you will come to realize that what are narratives? Like what some stuff are narratives, means are stories we tell ourselves, but it's not the truth. So we can talk about this in terms of like money is a narrative, Bitcoin is a narrative, religion is a
Yes. Definitely yes.
and then so many other things. Then when you understand, for me, if I understand that things are narratives, I take it quite literal. Let's say you understand that money is a narrative. Money is printed by central entity, the government, the MAS, they work together to control and issue money by controlling interest rates, so on and so forth. Then you understand that like it doesn't matter one. The only thing that matters is time. Time is your finite resource, and then it's a narrative I adopt. I create my own new narrative. It's like time is the finite resource, then what do you want to do with it? Do you want to, and it's completely up to you, you know? Like your time is fixed, and whether or not you want to understand the universe, or whether or not you want to do certain form of contribution, or whether or not you just want to chill, it's completely up to you. So this is how so these are the implications to real life, like first principles approach, logic, understanding what is narrative and what is truth, what is the absolute truth, so on and so forth. I think so. And because when you reason from logic, you are less emotional in investing, in that sense. It helps you to reduce your emotional volatility. Then because you have good evidence to back up why you do certain things. So then you weigh things in terms of probability. I think I do that a lot. And I think a lot of very successful people, they're not very feeling based. They weigh things in terms of logic and probability. So I think that is one good thing about understanding physics and implicating it to real life.
Just now we briefly mentioned about consciousness. So I think this one is a bit abstract to me, because to me, right, consciousness is just like people's aware of their environment and themselves, right? So what's your definition, or what's your view on these things as consciousness? What is it, and how is it relevant to us?
Okay, so I think this question comes from one of my videos. I say I fathom about a lot of things. And time and consciousness is something that it's very hard for me to understand. So I will just derive what I think of consciousness. For me, consciousness is like, we can do comparison between us and animals. Let's say if we really come from apes, right, then what is the difference between us and that said mammal or other living things? So I think what they don't have in terms of, as compared to us, what they don't have is the ability to imagine time, the concept of tomorrow, the concept of the past. So and the ability to think. I think the ability to think is consciousness. So let's say if you are able to understand present, past, future, you can imagine things. You can imagine languages, you can imagine, and your brain will sort of like there's sort of like intelligence explosion. You can like come up with narratives, you can create religion, you can tell stories, you can tell a person to meet at a time, specific time, place, date, so on and so forth. I think this is one of the hardest questions, and just now we talk about it, like the study of artificial intelligence will let us better understand how consciousness are developed. Because when we are conscious, then we will be the one like seeking for deeper meaning. But I don't think animals, they will seek for deeper meaning. So it's part of like the Maslow hierarchies of needs.
What about artificial intelligence? Do you think that robots, right, when they are operating at, let's say, 5-10 years out, right, do you think that they will gain this kind of like consciousness, or you will classify this as not the thing?
I think different form of consciousness without empathy, and that is quite scary.
But empathy also can be developed, right?
I think that animals have empathy. When you look at animals, they have feelings, they can cry, they can what. But I don't know if that's empathy, but it's more feeling based. But if you read a book called Super Intelligence, you'll realize how dangerous AI is.
Can you give some example, like what will be the, like the bad scenarios? Let's say if these things goes like there's some accident.
Avengers, Age of Ultron, or like nuclear, like they can take over a lot of things. Like if they deem that humans are not progressive enough, then we become dumber and dumber. Like we can invent a thing that invents things, and we will just the things that inventing they'll keep inventing better and better and better, and we'll just be like so far behind. It's called intelligence explosion. Explosion, literally. So I go and read a book, Super Intelligence, by Nick Bostrom, I think.
Because our hardware is not upgraded, right? The same hardware as in like 100, 200, 500 years ago, right? For machines, they keep upgrading themselves.
We just think of like us having a limited brain on the biological meat. I think it's all computing, computing power, able to compute, and they don't have to eat, don't have to shit, all this, don't have to have love. It's different. It's different.
But are you optimist when it comes to like visualizing the future?
If you're not optimistic by nature, then I think there's like no point in living. Yeah, so I'm an optimistic nihilist.
That's good, that's good. All right, I think that's on the physics part. Let's try